Welcome, dear friend. If you are here, listening to these words, it means that somewhere, deep within your being, there is a weariness that you can no longer ignore. It is a profound, soul-deep fatigue that permeates everything you do, everything you are, and everything you feel. This is not just the tiredness that a night of sleep can cure. This is the weight of the world resting upon your shoulders, a silent exhaustion born from a continuous, unspoken struggle. I invite you to stop. I invite you to acknowledge that struggle right now, in this moment, exactly as it is. Acknowledging the unspoken burden. Have you reached that point where you feel utterly spent, where the energy required just to articulate your feelings is too immense? When even the simplest request for an explanation feels like an insurmountable demand on your already depleted reserves? When you feel this way, please know you do not owe the world a narrative. You do not owe anyone an explanation for the ache in your heart or the heaviness in your spirit. Perhaps for you, exhaustion manifests in the physical world first. It might be that persistent, dull ache in your back, the tightening of your jaw, or the incessant throbbing behind your eyes. Your body, the faithful messenger, has been sending signals for a long time, but perhaps you've been too busy being strong to truly listen. Or perhaps it's an emotional fragility, a state where seemingly small things, a harsh word from a stranger, a minor setback at work, a text message left unanswered, are suddenly enough to make your heart tremble and destabilize your entire inner landscape. You wonder, why am I reacting so intensely? Why is my resilience gone? The truth is, your resilience isn't gone. It's simply exhausted from constantly being deployed without being refueled. When this happens, there is one gentle, yet radical act you must commit to. Please, just sit down. Just sit right there. The illusion of strength. For too long, we have been conditioned by the world to believe that our value lies in our enduring strength. We are taught to push through, to mask the pain, and to always present a face of competency and well-being. This societal pressure is the invisible weight that contributes most to your current state of fatigue. I urge you, do not try to appear strong right now. Stop straining yourself to be okay. Stop forcing that brittle smile onto your face. Don't say anything to justify or excuse your weariness. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be fragile. You are allowed to simply exist in this moment of vulnerability without needing to fix it, explain it, or apologize for it. The very act of trying to be okay when you are not is an enormous drain on your life force. It is the continuous, low-level tension of holding up a facade, and it is robbing you of the energy you need to genuinely heal. Let that mask drop. Let the tension in your shoulders relax. Let the tightness in your chest soften. You are safe here. The hidden loneliness. This profound fatigue often comes hand in hand with an overwhelming feeling of hidden loneliness. You are carrying something in your heart that you can't quite name, and because you can't name it, you assume no one else could possibly understand it. Maybe it is the accumulated grief of unspoken losses, or a slow-burning wound that has festered because you never gave it time and space to breathe. You may be surrounded by people, family, friends, colleagues, yet you feel utterly alone in the quiet storm raging inside you. You feel forgotten, perhaps tucked away in a dark corner where no one truly pays attention to the state of your soul. This feeling of being abandoned is suffocating. It is like walking alone under a cold rain, with no one knowing if you are shivering from the cold or from sadness. And in this moment of deep isolation, you desperately crave a silent presence, a knowing gaze that sees your struggle without judgment. The simple invitation, listen and breathe. This is why we stop. This is why we sit. We are pausing to tune into a very ancient, very gentle frequency that has been waiting patiently for you. It is the wisdom that promises you a safe harbor, a gentle stream that is always waiting for your return. Take a moment now. Inhale deeply, allowing the air to fill your lungs entirely. Exhale softly, letting go of all the expectations you placed upon yourself just moments ago. We are going to listen to a wisdom that still holds immeasurable value, the teachings of the Buddha. He was not a distant deity, but a human being who experienced suffering to its absolute limit and, crucially, found the path through that pain. His teachings are not high doctrine. They are a direct, pragmatic instruction for how to deal with the inevitable difficulties of being alive. Right here, right now, in this space of sitting still and breathing, you do not have to fight alone. You don't have to battle the exhaustion. You don't have to wrestle with the loneliness. You just have to listen, just like a soft light in the dead of night, like the gentle resonance of a distant bell. This ancient wisdom is here to remind you, you are not broken. You are merely tired. This message won't magically solve all your problems. I do not promise that you will immediately smile and feel lighter. But I believe that if you allow your mind to cease its struggle and your heart to ease its tension for just a few minutes, you will feel something subtly shift. You will uncover an inner space of profound calmness, a safe space you can always return to. This journey begins with the simplest act of all. Breathe deeply, exhale softly, and simply listen. You have stopped running. That is the first and most courageous step. In the quiet moment we carved out for ourselves in the first section, the moment where we allowed ourselves to simply sit and breathe, we acknowledged the sheer weight of exhaustion. We admitted that we are tired of fighting, tired of pretending, and tired of having to explain. Now, we move beyond the personal feeling of fatigue and look at the larger, universal truth that explains why we feel this way. This truth is the foundational insight of the Buddha, the very first of the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, dukkha. Dukkha, more than just pain. When we translate the Pali word dukkha into English, we often use the word suffering. But this translation is inadequate. It's too narrow. Dukkha is much broader and more pervasive than mere pain or acute sadness. In its deepest sense, dukkha is the fundamental unsatisfactoriness, the inherent imperfection, or the constant feeling of dis-ease that permeates all aspects of conditioned existence. Imagine a wagon wheel that is slightly off-kilter. It still rolls, but it always bumps, wobbles, and grinds. That grinding, that instability, is dukkha. It is the knowledge that nothing lasts. It is the subtle, underlying anxiety that whispers, "This beautiful moment will end. This comfort is temporary. My happiness is vulnerable." The Buddha did not come to teach pessimism. He came to teach realism. He illuminated dukkha not to depress us, but to give us the precise, accurate diagnosis of the human condition. Only when we correctly name the illness can we begin to find the cure. If we refuse to look at the suffering, we condemn ourselves to perpetually running away from it, only to be caught again and again. The 8 manifestations of dukkha. To help us understand dukkha beyond abstract philosophy, the Buddha meticulously categorized its manifestations in our daily lives. These are the 8 unavoidable forms of suffering, and as you hear them, I invite you to silently check which ones are currently contributing to the exhaustion you feel. 1. Birth, jati, the suffering of being born. This refers not only to the trauma of arrival, but to the fact that to be born is to be subject to all subsequent forms of suffering. 2. Aging, jara, the suffering of growing old. The physical decline, the loss of agility, the changing reflection in the mirror. It is the constant betrayal of the body that we try so hard to control. 3. Illness, vyati, the suffering of sickness. The fragility of our health, the sudden disruptions, and the pain that forces us to stop, whether we want to or not. 4. Death, marana, the suffering of dying. The ultimate separation, the loss of everything we have ever known or held dear. 5. Separation from the beloved, apihi sampayogo, the pain of being parted from those we love, a friend moving away, a relationship ending, or the death of a family member. This is the acute suffering of loss and longing. 6. Association with the unpleasant, payahi vipayogo. The suffering of having to deal with things we dislike, a difficult colleague, an annoying noise, a necessary but tedious task, or the relentless feeling of unfairness in the world. 7. Not getting what one wants. Yampikam na labhati, the suffering of frustrated desires. You worked hard for a promotion, but didn't get it. You longed for certain love, but it walked away. This is the source of much of our modern-day anxiety and disappointment. 8. The suffering of the 5 clinging aggregates. Sankatina pankapadanakanda dukkha. This is the most profound form. It is the suffering inherent in clinging to the body, form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness as a permanent, fixed self. Because these components are constantly changing. Impermanent. Clinging to them guarantees dissatisfaction. Reflect on your life today. When you felt betrayed, that was the suffering of separation from the beloved. When you felt tired of forcing yourself to smile, that was the suffering of association with the unpleasant, i.e., having to deal with difficult people or situations. When you felt life was unfair, that was the suffering of not getting what one wants. Suffering is a signal, not a punishment. It is absolutely vital to internalize this perspective. Dukkha is not a punishment. When you look at your life and ask, why me? Why? When I tried to be kind, did I receive pain? You are operating under the misunderstanding that goodness guarantees comfort. It does not. Dukkha is merely a signal. It is a feedback loop from the universe telling you that you are alive, that you are feeling, and, most importantly, that you are clinging to something that is impermanent. The presence of pain is proof of your capacity to feel deeply. The struggle is proof of your capacity to grow. The Buddha taught that without the shadow of dukkha, we would never seek the light of awakening. The error, the fall, the suffering, these are not roadblocks. They are the very soil from which understanding and compassion sprout. If you are suffering now, you are not being singled out by fate. You are participating fully in the universal human experience. You are not broken. You are simply realizing the inherent nature of a world built on change. From victimhood to understanding. When we acknowledge dukkha, we take the first step out of the trap of victimhood. As long as we believe suffering is an aberration, something that shouldn't be happening to us, we will forever be angry, frustrated, and resistant. We will waste precious energy fighting the reality of our current moment. But when we realize that suffering is simply what happens when an impermanent I meets an impermanent world, our perspective fundamentally shifts. We stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin to ask the wise question, what can I learn from this? This shift in inquiry is the first tiny, yet seismic, step toward inner freedom. It moves you from a state of passive endurance to one of active, conscious understanding. Now that we have firmly established the reality of dukkha, the inevitability of unsatisfactoriness in life, we must logically move to the next vital question. If suffering is our condition, what is causing it? We must drill down to the root, not just tend to the symptoms. Take a deep breath. Inhale the reality of dukkha. Exhale the resistance to it. We are now ready to examine the source of the storm. In the previous section, we bravely looked at the vast landscape of dukkha, the undeniable truth that life, by its very nature of impermanence, is marked by unsatisfactoriness. Now, we must move to the next logical truth, the one that holds the key to our eventual release. The truth of the origin of suffering, Samudaya. If dukkha is the illness, then Samudaya is the root cause, the infectious agent that keeps us bound to the cycle of exhaustion and disappointment. The Buddha identified the core origin of all suffering as craving, ta. Craving is not just a simple desire for a cup of coffee or a nice evening. It is the deep, desperate, restless hunger of the mind, the ceaseless wanting and clinging that prevents us from ever being fully at peace with what is. The three forms of craving. This restless hunger manifests in three primary ways, which are perpetually exhausting our inner resources. 1. Craving for sensual pleasure, kamata, the desire for enjoyable experiences, sights, sounds, tastes, and feelings. This is the constant chasing after the next high, the next distraction, the next object that promises temporary satisfaction. This striving keeps us running on a mental treadmill. 2. Craving for existence, bhavata. The desire to be rich, to be successful, to be loved, to be permanent. This is the root of the ego project, the fierce attachment to a fixed idea of who we are and who we should be. It is the terror of fading away, of not matching, of not achieving. 3. Craving for non-existence, vibhavata, the craving for things not to be, the desire to escape, to numb pain, to run away from unpleasant feelings, or even the subtle wish for certain parts of ourselves to disappear. When you are so exhausted you wish you could simply vanish. That is this craving in action. Think about the moment you felt most betrayed or disappointed. The pain wasn't just the event itself. The suffering arose from your craving for permanence in the relationship you're craving for, loyalty from that person, and your craving for non-existence of the resultant pain. Because you craved something that, by its nature of being impermanent, could not be sustained, the suffering was born. The three poisons fueling the fire. Driving these three forms of craving are the three root poisons, kilesas, the fundamental unwholesome mental states that fuel the entire cycle of suffering. 1. Greed/lust, lobha, the constant grabbing and seeking, the desire for more, better, different. It manifests as insatiable ambition, materialism, or the desperate need for validation. 2. Hatred/aversion, dosa, the pushing away and rejecting, the strong negative reaction to anything we find unpleasant. This manifests as anger, resentment, blame, frustration, and the desire for others, or our own pain, to disappear. 3. Delusion/ignorance, moha, this is the deepest poison. It is the fundamental misunderstanding of reality, the belief in permanence, the belief in a solid, unchanging self, and the failure to see things as they truly are, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and without a fixed self. When you felt the world was against you, you were experiencing aversion, dosa, to the unpleasant circumstances. When you felt deeply wounded by failure, you were experiencing clinging, lobha, to the desired outcome and the fixed identity of being a successful person. All of this is rooted in delusion, moha, the mistaken belief that life should be predictable and fair according to our personal wishes. The heavy chains of karma. To explain why good actions sometimes lead to bad outcomes, a question that plagues every sincere heart, we must briefly revisit the concept of karma. Karma, simply put, means action. It is the universal law of cause and effect, not a system of divine reward or punishment. The Buddha taught, the seed planted in countless lifetimes does not always bear fruit at the time you expect. If you plant a wholesome seed, kindness, patience, today, you will certainly reap a wholesome fruit. However, the suffering you experience today, even if you are acting virtuously now, may be the echo of an unwholesome seed planted long ago. This understanding is profoundly liberating because it removes the sense of injustice. The universe is not punishing you. It is simply delivering a consequence. The good you do now is not wasted. It is building a foundation of strength and light for your future. The pain you feel now is a chance to burn off the residue of past actions through conscious awareness and acceptance. The clinging to I and mine. The ultimate source of Samudaya is the fierce clinging to the ego, the deep-seated belief in a permanent, separate I that must be protected, defended, and satisfied at all costs. When we cling to the idea of a fixed self, every setback becomes a personal attack. Every failure becomes a catastrophic indictment of our whole being. This clinging forces us to live life with a tense grip, afraid to let go, afraid to be vulnerable. This constant tension is what ultimately leads to the overwhelming exhaustion we discussed earlier. You are tired because you are trying to hold on to water, onto smoke, onto clouds. You are trying to make the impermanent permanent, and that task is impossible, maddening, and profoundly draining. The insight of Samudaya tells us that the suffering is not out there in the world, in the people who betray you, or in the circumstances that disappoint you. The suffering is born in the mind, through the mind's grasping and rejecting. Understanding this is the turning point. It means we have identified the enemy, and the enemy is not a person or an event. It is the unconscious habit of craving and clinging within our own minds. Take a moment. Inhale. Can you feel the craving to be somewhere else than where you are right now? Exhale. Can you allow that craving to gently relax? Just for this breath? We now move to the most hopeful truth. If suffering has a root, it can be cut. We can find the cessation of this craving, and we can walk the path to freedom. In the previous sections, we performed the crucial work of diagnosis. We recognized the presence of suffering, dukkha, and identified its toxic source in craving and clinging, samudaya. Now, we turn our attention to the most hopeful and empowering truths of the Buddhist teachings, the possibility of cessation and the practical path to achieve it. This is where the journey shifts from recognition to action, from being a victim of the cycle to becoming the conscious architect of your inner freedom. Nirodha, the promise of nirvana. The third noble truth is the truth of the cessation of suffering. Nirodha. Nirodha is the promise that the cycle of dukkha can, in fact, be broken. Since suffering is caused by craving, then the complete cessation of craving naturally leads to the cessation of suffering. This state of ultimate freedom is called nirvana. For many, nirvana sounds like a mythical, distant heaven reachable only after death. But the Buddha taught that nirvana is a state of mind, accessible here and now. It is not a place you travel to, but a psychological and spiritual condition where the fires of the three poisons, greed, hatred, and delusion, have been extinguished. Nirvana is the profound, radiant stillness that remains when the restless mind finally puts down its burdens. It is not the absence of life's events, but the absence of the mind's reaction to those events. It is the deep, unshakable peace that settles when you realize that you no longer have to chase the pleasurable or run from the painful. This promise is vital, especially when you feel utterly exhausted. It tells you that the exhaustion is not your permanent destiny. It is a symptom of a curable condition, the habit of craving. The moment you stop clinging, the suffering tied to that object of clinging begins to dissolve, and you taste a small measure of nirvana. Magga, the Eightfold Path. How do we move from the exhaustion of craving to the stillness of nirvana? The Buddha laid out a clear, step-by-step methodology known as the Fourth Noble Truth. The truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, Magga, specifically, the Noble Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is not a set of dogmas, but a practical map for transforming the mind and cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. It is the middle way, avoiding both the extremes of self-indulgence and severe asceticism. The path is traditionally grouped into three essential trainings. 1. Wisdom, panna. Right understanding, Samudaya. This is the foundation. It means seeing things as they truly are, understanding the Four Noble Truths, and recognizing the impermanence and non-self nature of reality. It is the realization that your suffering is rooted in craving, not in external circumstances. Right thought, Samma Sakappa, cultivating thoughts of harmlessness, compassion, and renunciation. It is the conscious choice to move away from thoughts motivated by greed, hatred, or ill will, toward those motivated by kindness and wisdom. 2. Ethical conduct, sila. Right speech, samavaka, abstaining from lying, divisive speech, abusive language, and idle chatter. Instead, speaking truthfully, kindly, and purposefully. Right action, samakamanta, abstaining from actions that harm others, such as killing, stealing, or sexual misconduct. Acting with integrity and respect for all life. Right livelihood, Sama ajiva, earning a living in a way that does not harm others or contribute to suffering, e.g., avoiding trades that involve weapons, meat, or intoxication. 3. Mental discipline, samadhi. Right effort, samavayama, directing energy wisely to prevent unwholesome states from arising. Abandon existing unwholesome states, develop wholesome states, and maintain existing wholesome states. It is spiritual persistence. Right mindfulness, samasati, the conscious awareness of the present moment, paying attention to the body, feelings, mind states, and phenomena. This is our key focus for the next steps. Right concentration, sama samadhi, developing focused, one-pointed attention through meditation, which leads to deeper states of insight and tranquility. The power of right understanding. Notice where the path begins. Right understanding, samadhi. This is why the first three noble truths were so crucial. You cannot embark on the path until you genuinely understand the nature of the problem and the source of your exhaustion. Right understanding is the realization that your life is not a battle to conquer someone or something outside of you. The true battle is the one waged against the internal forces of craving and ignorance. The path is not a race to some distant finish line. It is a gradual process of self-transformation and continuous letting go. When you begin to see the world through the lens of right understanding, you stop asking, "Why are they doing this to me?" and start asking, "What lesson is in this for my spiritual growth?" This simple shift in perspective dismantles the victim narrative and restores your power. The critical turning point. The journey of the Eightfold Path is a journey of reconciliation, reconciling your desires with reality, reconciling your mind with your body, and reconciling yourself with the painful imperfections of the world. If you are feeling broken and alone right now, the path offers you a solemn promise. The goal is not to become perfect, but to become free. Free from the tyranny of your own craving. Free from the exhaustion of maintaining an illusion of permanence. As we move forward, we will anchor ourselves specifically in the practice of right mindfulness, Samadhi, for it is the immediate, practical entry point into the entire Eightfold Path. It is the simplest tool, yet the most profound, for navigating the rough waters of Dukkha and tasting the peace of Nirodha. Take a moment now to honor the wisdom you have absorbed. You know the problem, you know the cause, and now you know the map. Inhale the vastness of the path. Exhale the doubt that you can walk it. Tuet voi. Dui de la noi dung cho fan 5. The anchor of awareness. Koang 1002. Tap trung veo chan neem. Samasati. Vavai tro trung tom qua. Hoi tho trong tu con jai thot. Underscore. Underscore. 5. Wind face the anchor of awareness. The miracle of the breath. Approximate. 1,000 words. We have mapped the entire spiritual territory. We know the suffering, Dukkha. We know its root in craving, Samudaya. We know freedom, Nirodha, is possible. And we have been introduced to the comprehensive roadmap of the Eightfold Path, Magga. Now, we zoom in on the most immediate, practical, and accessible step on that path. Right mindfulness, Samadhi. Mindfulness is your personal portal into the entire Buddhist teaching. It is the simple, yet profound, act of cultivating non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. It is the practice of simply being here, without attempting to edit, change, or escape the current reality. What is mindfulness, truly? In our busy, modern lives, our minds are constantly elsewhere, replaying the past with regret, or rehearsing the future with anxiety. This mental wandering is profoundly exhausting, as it prevents us from replenishing our energy in the only place energy exists, the present. Mindfulness is the antidote to this wandering. It is the gentle, steady lamp of attention that illuminates what is happening inside and outside you, right now. It is the recognition that, I am having this thought. I am feeling this emotion. I am hearing this sound. I am sitting on this cushion. Crucially, this is done without judgment. We are often exhausted not by life, but by the relentless, critical commentary the mind attaches to life. Mindfulness helps you step back and observe the commentary without becoming lost in it. You realize, you are the observer, not the storm. The breath, your ever-present anchor. To practice right mindfulness, we need an anchor, something that is always present, always changing, and fundamentally neutral. The Buddha himself, after years of extreme asceticism, found his greatest insight by simply sitting and observing his in and out breath. The breath is the miracle of the present moment. Think about it. Your breath is the one constant thread connecting your physical body to your conscious mind. It is a biological process that is simultaneously involuntary. It happens on its own. And voluntary. You can choose to control it. When your mind races, when anxiety spikes, or when exhaustion hits, your breath becomes short, shallow, and irregular. This signals a state of distress to your nervous system. By contrast, when you intentionally slow your breath, you immediately send a powerful, soothing message back to your body. I am safe. I am home. Everything is okay. This is why the breath is the ultimate anchor. It is never in the past, and it is never in the future. Your breath is always happening right now. It is the only true physical link to the present moment you will ever have. The gentle technique of returning. The practice of mindfulness of breathing, Anapanasati, is remarkably simple, yet transformative. It requires no special equipment or location, only the willingness to stop and pay attention. Try it now. 1. Stop. Release whatever you were doing or thinking. 2. Sit. Sit comfortably, allowing your shoulders to relax and your spine to be upright, but not rigid. 3. Acknowledge. Gently bring your attention to the Feeling of the breath, not the concept of the breath, but the actual sensation. Feel the air entering your nostrils, the slight rise and fall of your abdomen, the gentle movement of your chest. 4. Recite. Optional, many find it helpful to silently recite a gentle phrase to deepen awareness, a technique popularized by Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. Oh, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Oh, breathing out, I know I am breathing out. 5. Be gentle with the mind. Inevitably, your mind will wander. It will think about your to-do list, your frustrations, or your fears. When this happens, do not judge yourself. That is simply the nature of the mind. As soon as you realize your mind has wandered, gently, kindly, escort your attention back to the breath. The power is not in stopping the thoughts. The power is in the repeated act of returning. Every time you return to the breath, you are strengthening the muscle of awareness and dissolving the habit of mind wandering that leads to exhaustion. The breath as a miracle. When you return to your breath, you return to life itself. Each breath is a small miracle, an unearned gift of existence. If you have lost hope, if you are struggling to find a reason to continue, remember this. You are still breathing. Your heart continues to beat. Your life force is still present and working on your behalf. Just this fact alone, the simple, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest, is evidence that you have the capacity to heal, to survive, and to begin anew. The exhaustion you feel is often the result of living too much outside yourself, according to others' expectations and demands. Returning to the breath is the act of coming home. It is your right to stop, your right to look at yourself with kindness, and your right to forgive your own imperfections. In the moment you are fully present with your breath, the past and the future temporarily cease to hold power over you. You are no longer tossed about like a rudderless boat on the turbulent sea of emotions. Instead, you become the conscious captain, steering your life not with brute force, but with the delicate, unwavering clarity of mindfulness. The practice of breath awareness is the path to genuine internal peace. It is the simple, silent acknowledgement, I am here and I am alive. This is where the profound process of healing truly begins. In the next section, we will take this anchor of awareness and apply it directly to the most difficult part of our journey, embracing the raw, painful, and often frightening emotions that we usually run from. The breath will be the safe space that allows us to turn toward our pain rather than against it. Take one final deep breath now and feel the stillness you have cultivated. Inhale peace. Exhale fatigue. You are ready for the next step. Tuet voi. Dui de la noi dung cho fan 6. Embracing the wounded child within. Koang 1002. Tap trung veo vik, su dung chan nim. Vatu by de doi dien va chien hoa cam suk dao ko. Underscore. _ 6. Embracing the wounded child within. Turning towards pain. Approximate 1,000 words. In the previous section, we established the breath as our unwavering anchor, the tether that keeps us grounded in the present moment, safe from the turbulent currents of past regret and future anxiety. Now, we must apply this mindful presence to the most challenging aspect of our journey, facing our strong, painful emotions. When suffering arises, whether it's sharp anxiety, overwhelming grief, or searing anger, our habitual tendency is to run. We try to numb it with distraction, push it away with denial, or suppress it with forced positivity. This resistance, this continuous internal fight, is the single greatest cause of our exhaustion. You are tired because you are constantly wrestling with yourself. The Buddhist teaching offers a radical alternative. Do not run from the suffering. Turn toward it and embrace it with compassion. Emotions as the wounded child. Imagine your strong emotions, your deep sadness, your raw vulnerability, your unacknowledged loneliness, as a small, wounded child living inside your heart. When this child is in pain, what is the worst thing you could do? Tell it to stop crying, lock it in a room, or pretend it doesn't exist. These actions only amplify the child's distress and fear. Our internal reaction to pain is often the same. I shouldn't be sad. I must be strong. This anger is unacceptable. By rejecting the emotion, we are rejecting a part of ourselves that desperately needs attention and care. The practice of transforming emotional pain requires the development of karuna, compassion, not just for others, but for the most vulnerable part of your own being. The practice of acknowledging and embracing. When a powerful, painful emotion arises, we use the anchor of the breath and the light of mindfulness, Anapanasati, to meet it, guided by the following steps. 1. Acknowledge and name the stop. Instead of immediately reacting, stop. Take one deep breath. Then, acknowledge the presence of the feeling. Give it a name, gently, without judgment. I know that anger is present in me. Hello, my deep sadness. I know you are here. I am aware of the energy of anxiety in my chest. This simple act of naming the emotion transforms it from a terrifying, engulfing storm into a distinct object of observation. You are separating yourself, the observer, from the emotion, the observed. You realize, I am not my anger. I am only observing my anger. 2. Embrace and accept the hug. Once acknowledged, use your mindful presence and your breath to embrace the emotion. Just as a loving parent embraces a crying child, you don't tell the child to stop crying. You simply sit beside them and offer your full, soothing presence. Focus your attention on the exact physical location of the feeling. Is the anxiety in your stomach? Is the grief tightening your throat? Direct your gentle breath right into that area. Inhale with the thought, I am breathing in this pain. Exhale with the thought, I am soothing and accepting this part of me. You are not forcing the pain to disappear. You are creating a safe, internal space for it to exist, to be heard, and to be held. The greatest healing often comes not from getting rid of the pain, but from being present with it without resistance. 3. Deep listening, the insight. Stay with the feeling for several minutes. Do not try to analyze why the emotion is here, but simply feel its raw texture. Allow yourself to be human. Tears are not a sign of weakness. They are a sign that you are deeply, truly human. When you allow yourself to cry, you are watering the seeds of compassion and patience within your heart. These are lessons that cannot be learned from books, only from the direct, honest experience of your own vulnerability. The power of non-resistance. There is a curious truth in our spiritual practice. What you resist, persists. What you embrace, dissolves. When you struggle against suffering, you feed it energy, causing it to swell and grow stronger. The exhaustion you feel is the energy wasted in this resistance. But when you bravely turn towards the pain and accept, yes, this is me right now. This is my reality. The tension immediately begins to relax. The emotion, now acknowledged and accepted, no longer needs to scream for your attention. It begins to soften and calm down, much like a river that slows when it meets no obstruction. By transforming your relationship with suffering from warfare to welcome, you reclaim your inner peace. The feeling may not vanish instantly, but the suffering, the psychological attachment to the pain, will begin to lessen, reclaiming your energy. This internal shift is the source of genuine, sustainable energy. Instead of using your life force to suppress difficult feelings, you liberate that energy to focus on the wholesome aspects of the Eightfold Path, right effort, right livelihood, etc. When you are able to sit with your pain without judgment, you are demonstrating the highest form of self-love and courage. You become your own best friend, a companion who stays by your side not just when you are happy, but precisely when you are struggling. Others may misunderstand you. They may abandon you, or they may fail to validate your feelings. But the core lesson of this practice is that you must never abandon yourself. Your wounded child needs your presence more than anyone else's. Take one final, deliberate breath. Inhale kindness for the child within. Exhale the need to fight. You are simply holding your own pain. That is enough. Tuet voi. Dui de la noi dung cho fan 7. When the world is against you, Koang 1002. Tap trung veo vik ap dung, chan nim va tu bai. Kai doi mat voi su bat song. Chi trick, va fan boi tu the gioi ben nagwai. Underscore. Shield when the world is against you. Wisdom in adversity, approximate. 1,000 words. We have trained diligently to turn inward, embracing the wounded child of our own emotions. But the spiritual path is not practiced in isolation. We must now apply our newfound awareness to the external world, specifically to the moments when we feel most attacked, betrayed, or unjustly criticized. These are the times when the pain is externalized. You look out and declare, "The world is against me." You ask, "Why do bad things happen to good people? Why did I give love only to receive betrayal?" When you are met with cruelty, the natural reaction is to fight, to justify, or to retreat into bitterness. This is where the old habits of aversion, dosa, flare up, reigniting the flame of exhaustion. The wisdom of the Buddha offers a path not of passive retreat, but of active, conscious disengagement from the cycle of harm. The parable of the unaccepted letter envelope. Let us revisit one of the most powerful and pragmatic pieces of advice given by the Buddha. Concerning external malice, the parable of the unaccepted letter. Imagine someone approaches you, overflowing with anger and holding a letter filled with vicious insults. They thrust the letter toward you, demanding that you accept it. What is your choice? The Buddha simply smiled and said, "If someone sends you a letter and you do not accept it, the letter returns to the sender." This simple analogy is the key to internal liberation. The harsh words, the baseless criticisms, the unjust accusations, these are all gifts being offered to you. If you choose not to accept them, if you refuse to take them into your heart and mind, they cannot land. They return to their source. We do not suffer because of what others say. We suffer because we believe and we cling to those words. We open the envelope, read the insult, and then keep rereading it for days, months, and sometimes years. By refusing the letter, you are reclaiming your sovereignty. You are declaring that your inner peace is not subject to the chaotic opinions or actions of others, becoming the master of acceptance. The practice of rejecting the letter requires a profound level of acceptance, not acceptance of the injustice itself, but acceptance of the reality of the situation. The reality that people act from their own pain and ignorance. Their malice is a reflection of their own internal chaos, not a true measure of your worth. The reality that you cannot control the actions or words of others. You can only control your response. When you are criticized, instead of reacting, immediately remember the anchor of the breath. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I going to open this letter? If the criticism contains a grain of truth that can help you grow, you might take the lesson and discard the packaging, the malice. If the criticism is purely venomous and false, you simply let the letter float away. The energy you save from not fighting or internalizing this external storm is the energy you can use to heal your own fatigue, transforming enemies into teachers. This realization leads to a deeply compassionate, yet powerful, perspective. Your adversaries are your greatest spiritual teachers. It is easy to practice patience with those who love you. It is effortless to practice kindness when life is smooth. But true spiritual muscle is built only when you are faced with someone who actively seeks to harm you, betray you, or misrepresent you. These unpleasant omens force you to look inward. They test your patience. Can you remain calm when provoked? They test your self-worth. Do you allow their opinion to define your value? They expose your attachments. They show you how much you cling to being seen as good, right, or loved. The person who hurt you has, paradoxically, given you the most valuable gift, an opportunity to practice unconditional composure and profound letting go. Without them, how would you ever learn the depth of your own inner firmness? The cultivation of loving kindness, metta. The ultimate spiritual response to hatred is metta, loving kindness. This does not mean you have to invite your betrayer to dinner or pretend the hurt didn't happen. It means you cultivate the wish for their well-being, even if you must establish firm boundaries and distance yourself for your own protection. When you hold on to resentment and anger, you are the one suffering. As the saying goes, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The practice of metta involves consciously wishing the person who wronged you freedom from suffering, confusion, and hatred. This is not for them. It is entirely for your own freedom. By releasing the resentment toward them, You cut the emotional cord that binds you to them, and you liberate your own heart. From battle to journey, you are not required to have all the answers now. You do not need to instantly forgive anyone who has caused you pain, but you need to start the journey of forgiving yourself for accepting the letter in the first place, for believing the lie that you deserve the pain, or for holding onto the resentment that is now exhausting you. The path through adversity is a journey of refining your inner gold. Every betrayal is an opportunity to learn where to place your love more wisely. Every failure is an opportunity to learn that your true success is measured not by external achievement, but by the integrity and compassion with which you meet the next moment. If you are listening now with a heart heavy from external injustice, know this: you are stronger than you think. The mere fact that you are seeking a higher way to process this pain, not to fight back, but to find peace, is a testament to your enormous courage and spiritual maturity. Let go of the heavy sword of blame. Let the letter float away. Choose your peace over your fight. Tuet voi. Dui de la noi dung cho fan 8. Omens. The Seed of Awakening. Koang 1002. Tap trung veo vik nin moi su kien trong doi. Dutat he za. Nu la and hung diem bao he bai. Hak, kan thiat cho su tuk 10. Awakening. Underscore 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 8. Cloud with lightning and rain omens. The Seed of Awakening. Approximate 1,000 words. We have navigated the internal landscape of pain, transforming resistance into acceptance. Now, we take the perspective shift a step further, applying it to the very circumstances of our lives. When things go wrong, when you lose a job, when a relationship collapses, when health fails, it feels like the entire universe is working against you. The wisdom of the Buddha suggests a profound counter-narrative. Nothing is working against you. Everything is working for your awakening. In this view, every person, every event, every twist of fate is an omen, a significant signpost or catalyst perfect for your spiritual journey. No circumstance is accidental, and no pain is wasted. The perfect pieces of the puzzle. Think of your life as a vast, intricate puzzle, and every person or event is a necessary piece, designed specifically to fit the edges of your ignorance and your attachments. The Buddha taught that both favorable and unfavorable circumstances serve as teachers on the path. Favorable omens. Joy, success, love, these arrive as gifts. They teach you gratitude, appreciation, and the joy of connection. They show you the potential for happiness and peace that exists in the world. However, they also expose your clinging, your tendency to desperately try and hold on to the ephemeral joy, causing pain when they inevitably change. Unfavorable omens, loss, betrayal, failure. These arrive as storms. They are the tough, yet necessary, teachers. They don't teach you comfort. They teach you firmness, patience, and non-attachment. They force you to look inward and ask, who am I when everything I cling to is stripped away? Without the unfavorable omens, you would never train your mind. When life is easy, we tend to become complacent, forgetting to look within. But when suffering strikes, you are forced to stop. It is like a sudden alarm bell ringing, reminding you that you have neglected your inner being, living too long according to external demands and expectations. The fire that forges the steel. The analogy of the fire that forges the steel is particularly apt here. Steel must be subjected to intense heat and relentless pounding to remove impurities and attain true strength. If the universe only offered you comfort, you would remain soft, untested, and fragile. Every time you hit your limit, every time you feel pushed to the absolute edge of your emotional capacity, that is not divine punishment. It is spiritual training. Without adversity, you wouldn't know how deep your capacity for patience truly is, how strong your foundation of self-respect remains, even when others try to shatter it, how firmly you can stand upright in the midst of a storm without losing yourself. Those who cause you the deepest hurt, the ones who provoke the most anger or resentment, are often the ones who have the greatest impact on your spiritual evolution. They expose the dark corners of your mind, the unhealed attachments, and the areas where your wisdom is not yet awake. If not for them, you might never have the courage to face those shadowed parts of yourself. Seeds in the mud. The wisdom tradition reminds us of the lotus flower. The lotus cannot grow from a dry rock. It requires mud and water. The deeper and darker the mud, the more magnificent and pure the lotus bloom that emerges. Your suffering, your confusion, your betrayal, your tears is the mud. It is the necessary material for your enlightenment. Each tear that falls is watering the seed of compassion and wisdom within you. When you begin to view life through this lens, your narrative shifts entirely. You stop saying, "I hate this pain." You start saying, "What is this pain trying to teach me about myself?" You stop saying, "I wish that person hadn't hurt me." You start saying, "Because of that person, I learned to trust myself more." This is the process of transformation. The difficulty does not vanish, but the way you interact with it changes. Instead of living in a state of continuous resistance, you enter a state of conscious acceptance and learning. The freedom of no resistance. When you realize that everything is an omen, you stop being trapped in the duality of good and bad, or win and lose. You simply see things as they come and go, like the waves of the sea, and you, the observer, the true self, remain stable. The adversity that leads you to the Dharma, to a book, a meditation session, a teaching, or this very video, is arguably the greatest, most favorable omen of all. Often, the person who made you cry is the very person who brought you closer to the path of liberation. This realization is not immediate, but it surfaces over time when you commit to silent reflection and refuse to rush to judgment. The Buddha's promise is that in every adversity, there is a seed of liberation. But that seed can only sprout when you stop running, when you observe it, and when you water it with mindful attention, Samudaya. Take a deep breath. Inhale the courage to see the mud as necessary. Exhale the resentment toward the things that made you fall. Everything that has happened has been a perfect lesson, leading you here, now, to the most important destination of all, yourself. Tuet voi. Dui de la noi dung, cho fan 9. Returning to your true nature, Koang 1002. Tap trung veo vik nen ra von true trong ban chat chan that, pure heart, qua ban. Vut len tren and hung by tro va and hung vet thuong. Underscore 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 underscore. 9. Dizzy returning to your true nature, beyond the roles and scars, approximate 1,000 words. We have journeyed far, from the recognition of exhaustion, through the Four Noble Truths, and into the profound practice of seeing all events as omens for growth. Now, in this pivotal 9th section, we address the deepest question of all. Who are you when everything else is stripped away? The fatigue we feel is often rooted in a crisis of identity. We have lived too long according to the scripts and expectations of others, striving to be the successful employee, the perfect parent, the caring partner. When life inevitably pulls the rug out from under these roles, we feel utterly lost and empty. You smile to hide the tears, you speak and laugh, but inside there is a void you cannot name because you have forgotten the one who truly lives within. Who is the observer? The Buddhist concept of anatta, non-self, is vital here. It teaches that there is no fixed, permanent, independent self or soul residing within us. You are not your job title, your bank account, your past mistakes, or even your current pain. You are a dynamic collection of changing components, body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts. This realization is not a denial of self, but a profound liberation from the exhausting task of maintaining a fixed self. It frees you to stop clinging to the idea of a perfect self that constantly needs defending and validating. If you are not your wounds, not your failures, and not your societal roles, then who are you? You are the observer. You are the awareness, the quiet, expansive consciousness that watches all these phenomena come and go. When anger arises, you are the one watching the anger. When a critical thought appears, you are the one observing the thought. When the feeling of profound exhaustion washes over you, you are the one who is aware of the exhaustion. The pure heart, tathagata-garbha. Within the Mahayana tradition, there is the concept of the tathagata-garbha or Buddha nature, the inherent potential for awakening that resides within every single being. This is your true nature, a pure, luminous heart that is untouched and untainted by the passing clouds of suffering, failure, and confusion. The suffering we experience is simply the result of forgetting this truth. We become so entangled in the temporary storms that we forget the vast, clear sky that we fundamentally are. Your true self is not something you have to attain. It is something you must return to. The exhaustion is a signal that you have walked too far away from this inner home. The right to stop and be kind. Today, right now, you have the absolute right to stop running. The moment you acknowledge your weariness and look at yourself with gentle, non-judgmental eyes, you begin the return journey. This is the practice of self-forgiveness and self-compassion. Forgive the past. Forgive yourself for not knowing better, for the mistakes you made, while desperately trying to be strong or good enough. The past is information, not your sentence. Forgive the roles. Forgive yourself for having to wear so many masks. You tried your best with the understanding you had. Embrace imperfection. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to be strong all the time. You only need to be honest with your pain, your wound, and everything you wanted to forget. The deep loneliness you feel dissolves when you become the loving companion to yourself. Others may abandon you, but you must vow, in this moment, never to abandon your own heart. The stillness of the inner house. Within every human being, there is an inner house, a sacred space that no one can take away from you, a place of peace that remains even if the external world collapses. We often forget how to return here because we are too busy trying to prove that we are sufficient. But the path back is simple and immediate. It starts with the breath. When you return to your mindful breath, you are not being dragged by endless thoughts. You become the one who steers your own life, not with physical force, but with the gentle, unwavering clarity of awareness. The path is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to yourself, just as you are, complete, whole, and worthy of love. The world may be heavy, but your true nature is light. The world may be noisy, but your true nature is silence. The world may be fragmented, but your true nature is whole. Take a deep breath now and rest in this truth. The pain is real, but it is not your identity. The struggle is valid, but it is not your permanent state. You are the awareness that watches it all. And in that awareness, you are already free. The unspoken promise. You do not need to fight against the external world anymore. You don't need to force anything. Simply remember that it is when you stop running that you truly begin to live. The peace you seek is not a destination. It is the way you walk, the way you face the pain, and the way you touch the life unfolding in every single moment. Tuet voi. Dui de la noi dung cho fan. 10. The Unfolding Journey and Final Promise. Koang 1002. Tong ket ton bo han trin va dua ra loi hua vi, su jai thot von tru. Underscore. Underscore. 10. Sparkles the Unfolding Journey and Final Promise. Returning home. Approximate. 1,000 words. We have reached the end of this shared journey, a deep exploration into the nature of suffering and the boundless possibility of peace. You began here feeling the immense weight of exhaustion, a weariness born from constantly fighting the reality of impermanence and clinging to what could not last. Now, let us pause to consolidate. The wisdom gained, transforming knowledge into a foundation for a new way of living. A summary of the path home. Our journey through the Buddha's teachings led us to 3 crucial realizations that form the backbone of your ongoing spiritual practice. 1. Acknowledge and accept dukkha. We recognize that suffering, dukkha, is an inevitable part of life, not a punishment, but a signal. By acknowledging this truth, we stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and ceased the exhausting fight against reality. 2. Understand and release craving. Taoyi saw that the true source of suffering is not the pain itself, but our desperate craving and attachment to outcomes, identities, and permanence. The moment you identify the root of the storm, you gain the power to starve it. 3. Anchor in mindfulness. Samasati, we established the breath as the most faithful companion, the simple, miraculous link to the present moment. The practice of right mindfulness is the direct path to dissolving the tension of craving and returning to your true, unconditioned self, the true meaning of liberation. The promise of the path is not that you will never encounter difficulty again. Life, by its very nature, will continue to deliver both favorable and unfavorable omens, the sun and the storm. Liberation, nirvana, is not the escape from the world. It is the fundamental change in how you interact with the world. When you are anchored in awareness, you are no longer a victim of passing emotions. You are the conscious observer. You are no longer defined by your failures. You are the learner who grows from them. You no longer seek peace in a distant place. You realize that peace is the way you walk and the gentle way you face the life unfolding in each moment. You have learned that the struggle to become someone else, stronger, better, less flawed, is the very thing that made you exhausted. The moment you stop striving, you realize you are already whole, complete, and worthy of love exactly as you are, scars and all. The final promise: you are not alone. There are moments when you will feel that the world has turned its back on you, when every hand you reach out touches only emptiness. That feeling of abandonment can be suffocating. But the final promise of the Buddha's teachings is this: you are never truly alone. In every moment of stillness, the wisdom of compassion and understanding is with you. Every word of the Dharma follows you silently, like a light cloud across the vast sky of your emotional being. When you sit and simply observe your breath, you are joining a timeless stream of awakened beings who have all found their way back home through the same simple method. You have found the way to become your own true friend, the one who never judges, never criticizes, and never abandons you, regardless of the darkness you perceive. Your continuing journey, the first step, is always now. This is not an end point. It is a profound new beginning. You do not need to understand everything perfectly. You only need to know that as long as you can breathe, you still have opportunity, hope, life, and love waiting for your return. What does the path look like from here? It is not marked by grand gestures, but by small, mindful actions. When the pain arises, do not fight. Sit down, close your eyes, and inhale, acknowledging the pain. Exhale, embracing it. When you feel overwhelmed, do not run. Stop everything and simply return to your breath. Let the rhythm of your body guide you out of the internal storm. But when you feel exhausted, do not try to be strong. Permit yourself to rest, to cry, and to be honestly human. Remember the wisdom of the lotus. The suffering did not come to break you. It came to help you become the truest version of yourself. A human being can suffer without breaking. A soul can be sad, yet remain soft and compassionate towards the world. The act of returning. The moment of peace is the moment you decide to return. Returning is not a destination. It is a state of total presence. And in that state, everything that felt chaotic and opposing begins to calm down. Not because the external world has changed, but because you have changed. You have found the root of peace within your own mindful breath. You no longer have to run. You no longer have to force yourself. Just remember that it is when you stop running that you truly begin to live. May your heart be at ease. May your mind be clear. May you walk the rest of your life's journey with wisdom, courage, and unconditional kindness towards yourself. Go well, dear friend. The journey begins now, with the next mindful breath.